Hello and welcome back, everybody. Boyd here with you. Well, this is going to be kind of a throwback video series. This is getting back to the old days of the TrekWorks channel. We're going to be building up the Enterprise E that you see here by AMT, and we're going to be doing a brand new step-by-step build guide for you guys on this one. And I'm going to be doing some kind of unique building methods on this one, guys. Kind of a little bit of an experiment with the lighting of the windows, and then we're going to be using a new control board from the good folks over at Hobby Link International. Want to thank Kenny. Talked with Kenny there a little bit, and we're going to be trying one of their new boards, their basic strobe and navigation board for our lighting on this, because the system that they have is just perfect for the navigation lights that we need to do on this ship. We'll do a little bit of lighting on the engines. I've come up with my own little ideas for lighting up the Bassard collectors, and then we're going to be mounting it on a basic stand and everything. But we're going to start off today by showing you what the plan is and getting into it a little bit. We're going to start off by working on the saucer. Just show you the basic layout of the kit here. Everybody's familiar with this kit. Mostly it's been around for quite a few years. You can see you've got the saucer here in one section. Pretty good size, and you've got some nice recessed window locations all the way around on this, on the top and the bottom. There's a few locations here on the bottom, but we have quite a bit more on the secondary hull. We'll kind of leave these parts in the bag here, but very similar to what you see on the saucer. Same kind of look. And talking about the different approach I'm taking to this one, you guys. A little bit of an experiment, but I think it's going to work because I've tried this little method on a couple of different smaller things that worked out really well. But one of the things that sets people back from attempting to build and light this particular kit is that you have all these windows, and they're fairly small, and it takes a lot of time because the method that most people use is they go ahead and drill these all out and use miniature files and, you know, open them all up. The problem that they're not round window ports makes it a little bit more difficult, where you've got to drill and maybe 2 or 3 times and then, you know, open these up so they look like long rectangular slits to look proper. And what winds up happening with that is that, you know, when you really get up close to it and look at it, you can kind of see the imperfections that occur with that, you know, having to do that over and over so many times. And, you know, from a few feet away it looks pretty good, but when you really get close to it, it's you know, the flaws tend to show up in that. So I had been thinking about this for a while, and, you know, trying to think of a way I could use to come up with that. And, you know, it dawned on me that something similar to the way that the clear versions are done, back when I did the Enterprise D, that maybe we could do some kind of a scraping method. And, you know, the problem that we have is white plastic. It's not as good as clear plastic, but this plastic on this kit is actually really thin, and I think that the light's going to come through on these window ports really easily. So what my plan starting today is I'm going to scuff this all down with some steel wool to make sure we get really good paint adhesion to this. And I'm going to go ahead and shoot the whole entire outside of this thing with some black craft acrylic paint to do the you know, the basic light blocking on this. And then we're going to come back and coat it all down with some white. The black will actually give it some nice pre-shading too, to give some of the, you know, highlight some of the detail. We're going to do that with all the hull parts, the saucer and the secondary hull. And then come back and top coat it with white, whatever I determine I want the hull color to be, probably kind of a little bit of an off-white, white mixed with just a tiny little bit of black. And we'll seal it up with that. And then I'm going to take, you know, whatever tool I can find that's going to fit really tightly in these little window ports here. And I'm going to do the scraping method. I'm going to scrape the paint off, and just kind of as a preliminary test here to see how this works out and see what kind of a look we get. Now, what I've thought of is that, you know, one of the things I thought might be a side effect from that would be that, you know, after it's all done, wherever the windows are, it's going to look great when they're lit because they're all going to come through. But when it's off, you know, are we going to have a bunch of, you know, white-looking windows in here, which, you know, probably, you know, wouldn't be that bad, being that they're recessed a little bit too. They'll create a little bit of a shadow in there. So it might look a little, you know, it might look okay, but what I've actually thought of trying is making a real light wash with black, you know, so it's almost transparent. And after this is all painted and scraped, going in here with a really fine tip brush and just adding a little black wash on all these little window groups and clearing away any of the excess, so it's just only kind of stuck in the recessed areas here where the window ports are, and that way it'll give it kind of a, more of a black or darker shading to it when the lights are off, and then yet when the lighting is turned on and the black wash is still fairly thin on here, I'm thinking that the light's going to come through that just fine and light up as normal. So, but anyway, I'm going to do an experiment on the top half of the saucer here today. So what I'm going to do next is take you over to the bench, and we're going to scuff this down with some black, or with some steel wool, and then we're going to, I'll take it inside and wash it after that and get all the mold agent off of it, and like I always do with some Dawn dishwashing liquid. And then we'll come back out here and we'll start painting it. I'm going to use my minigun because I can get a nice even, black coat on this. It'll probably take 3 or 4 coats of black to light block it. I'm not going to use any primer, and I'll tell you the reason why. The craft acrylic paint is water-based, and so it won't attack this plastic at all. It won't etch it. So what'll happen then is when we get to the part where we want to scrape the black paint away, we're going to top coat it, of course, with the white. I skipped a step there. We'll finish with the black, top coat it with the white, and then we won't have any of the paint that's etched into these little window ports, and so it should be pretty easy to remove that paint in just these sections. I'll have to experiment a little bit to figure out how long I have to let the paint dry till it's nice and hard before I can do that, because we don't want to tear away any, the whole point to this is to try to make these look a little cleaner and neater than they do if you drill them out and make them look all more uniform. And we'll see how that goes. But we're going to do the first steps here, and we'll keep going until we can test the first maybe little group of windows here. Maybe we'll do this little section right here. We'll throw some light behind it and see how it comes out. But let's get right into it, you guys. I'm pretty excited about this. If this method fails, I'll probably, think about trying something else. And if we have to, we can always go back and actually drill out the windows, which will, make the build a lot longer. And, if I have to do it that way, I will. But kind of the whole point to this video and this series is to kind of show you guys a different method of doing this. And if it works, then great. It'll save a whole bunch of time, and I think it might encourage a lot more people to actually try to attempt to build on this. We've also got some decals that are being developed by Jerry at HDA ModelWorks, some Aztec decals for this. I have to talk to him a little bit more detail to figure out which version he's going to have available. I know the markings are changed up a little bit, but depending on if it's the time we first saw the ship or if it's the Nemesis version or whichever it is, but we'll get all that worked out. But let me go ahead and get you over to the bench now, and we'll get started on scrubbing this saucer down and then getting some paint applied to it. We'll be right back and get started, everybody. All right, everybody, let's get started on the old saucer here. I've just got some regular double-aught steel wool, and I like to use this on a shape that's got all these kind of like recessed areas and nooks and crannies. I've explained this before, but it does a really good job of getting down into those areas, and it doesn't gouge the plastic, with a super deep scratch marks. But when we scuff this all down, it'll give a really nice surface for the paint to stick to. We want to make sure it all sticks on there really good, and it's really important that you do that with the craft paints because they don't, like I said, they don't etch into the plastic, so they don't stick quite as strong as regular solvent-based paints. But this is pretty simple. Let's just go ahead and start working it down here. You can see how shiny that plastic is, and we basically want to work this down until we get rid of all that, that shine that's on there, and just make sure we hit all these areas. Just takes a couple of seconds to do this. I'm going to get all the way around it because even though I'm just going to be putting a basic coat on this, there may be some areas that we've got a basic shade of paint because we're going to make up all the Aztec markings and everything with our decals later on. But we may have to do some, painting some of these accent areas here. I have to go back and, do my usual thing and download a bunch of pictures of the ship, decide which version I want to do it as. And so when we do any masking, we want to make sure that we have really good paint adhesion and we don't pull anything up. That's kind of the standard thing that I talk to you guys about on all these builds. Just get up in these little areas. You can see that this steel wool is doing a great job on getting to all the little hard to get areas here where a flat piece of sandpaper won't get to. And it doesn't scratch the plastic too harshly. It's putting a nice fine pattern of scratches on this. We're not actually really even sanding off any of the plastic, which is a good thing. We want these windows to be as deep as possible. That way it's easier to get in there and hold our tools steady, whatever we're going to use to do the scraping. I may use a regular hobby knife, or I may use a toothpick, but we'll figure out what works best when we get there. Just kind of want to get along the side here a little bit. Make sure I get all the way down to the edge. Back in this area here, it's still a little bit shiny. Yeah, this is very thin plastic. It's almost like it's not too far away from being vacuum formed. So I think it'll work out really good. Now I'll look at the secondary hull, but I was also going to say that anywhere that the plastic was kind of thick on this from the inside, what I would have done is I've gone back in here with my Dremel tool and I would have shaved it down and made it a little bit thinner so that it would be easier for the light to get through. But I don't think we're going to have to do that with this. I think it's going to work out really good just the way it is. When I held it up to my shop light, the light came through it really easily. So I think this may work, you guys. Okay, we'll blow it off a little bit of shop air here. Get rid of all that. That way I can see where I need to do a little bit more. I can see here towards the back and the top, it's still got a little bit of shininess to it. Just want to do this enough where you get rid of all that little bit of shine. That tells you that it's got a little texture on there, and it'll be great for grabbing a hold and keeping that paint on there. I think that ought to do it. Okay, you guys, step one complete. We're already making progress here. I'll take this inside, wash it all down. When we come back with you just in a second, I'll have it set up on the spray area, and we'll put a couple of coats of black craft acrylic paint on this and start our light blacking process. Be right back. Okay, we're just about ready to get going here, you guys. I'm back in the spray area. I just came back from the kitchen, washing the saucer all down with some Dawn. Got it all cleaned up and degreased, and now I'm ready to spray. I took a little bit of my shop air and just lightly blew this off to make sure we didn't have any dust in it. And I've got it taped down to my Tamiya painting stand here with a little bit of duct tape, just to make sure when we hit it, it doesn't take off on us. The paint I'm using is just this regular craft acrylic Anita's. I mixed it just thin enough where it'll spray through my little mini gun here. I'm not using an airbrush because this is a kind of a big saucer, and it's just going to take me one or two passes here to coat this, and I won't be here all day with an airbrush. So we're ready to go. I'm spraying at about 25 psi, and I'm going to get my heat gun ready here too, so that we can kind of help this dry a little bit while we're painting. And we'll get started here, you guys. Got my gun all set up and ready to go. And we're going to wind up giving this maybe a couple of coats here with drying in between. So here we go. Just putting it in nice even light coats. Don't want to worry about covering it all in one shot here. That way it'll dry a little bit faster. I'll skip ahead a little bit on the video for you guys so this doesn't take all day for you. And again, going back to my reasoning on this, you guys, I'm using this craft paint because I don't want to have the paint etch into the plastic like I talked about. I don't want to have to scrape too hard when I want to remove the paint where the windows are. We can turn our base around here a little bit. I'm thinking that probably 2 or 3 coats is what it's going to take, maybe a little more to light block this. The craft paint tends to be a little bit thinner than regular paint, but we'll lay down 2 or 3 coats here and we'll pick it up and hold it up to some light and test it out just to see. This is, you know, I want to keep this on here as thin as possible. I don't want to put the paint on so thick that we start to lose the definition of where the windows are actually located. So just take it nice and easy here. If you're going to use a heat gun, stay a good 6 to 8 inches away. I've talked about this before. I've got it on low setting here. This is really thin plastic, so I want to make sure I don't melt it or warp anything. As soon as this heat gun actually dies on me, I'm going to replace it with a good hair dryer. I think a hair dryer will actually work a little bit better for this. It won't get quite as hot, and it blows a lot more air volume, and it should work pretty good. But I'm kind of used to this, so I'll just stick with it for now. Drying up pretty quick. The key to get this to drying quick is to just put it on in light coats like I'm doing, you guys. Don't go too crazy with it. Make sure we spin it around all the different angles to get in all these recessed areas and get it good along the sides. Out on the edges where the paint tends to usually be kind of thin. Now when I assemble this model and put it all together, we're going to have this little seam around the edge, but the way this model works is that the bottom piece this kind of overlaps onto the bottom piece, so we won't have a big hard putty edge there, and we'll be able to do a little bit of paint touch up with an airbrush and not worry about it. We'll cover that part when we get to it. It's looking pretty good. It's a really nicely done mold. You can really see a lot of detail, especially when the black is on there. And so we're going to use this kind of as a pre-shade. And then when we spray our white on here, it'll give a nice definition to that. One more coat. Spin it around once more. Alright, I'm going to put my airbrush up here for a second. And we'll finish drying it, and then I'm going to hold it up to the light and see what we get. Okay, I think it's dry enough to do a light leak check. I'm just going to hold it up to my shop light over here. I can see some areas right up here around next to the bridge or upper decking here, where that little recessed area there where it's still leaking just a tiny little bit, so we'll hit it just a little bit more. Otherwise the rest of it looks really good. Try to focus on that spot a little bit more. I'll go give the whole thing one more coat. Got to remember that we're putting maybe 1 or 2 coats of white over it too, so that's going to help block some light too. I'm really hoping this idea works, because the goal of this is to maybe inspire some more people to try to take this build on and not have to worry about all the window drilling, which, as many of you done it, hats off to you guys. It's an awful lot of work. I've done several of those myself, not this particular ship, but several other models. Hopefully One day they'll release this kit in clear, which a lot of people have been asking for, and that will even make this process work even better. But I think this is going to look pretty good. I actually prefer, such as I light the plastic parts on the 350 scale TOS Enterprise, I actually kind of prefer the diffusion it gives on areas like in the shuttle bay and everything. We don't have to worry about a lot of light flickering or anything with bright LEDs. Now on this particular model, being that the paint or the plastic is a little bit off-white, I'm going to use some regular pure white LEDs, no warm whites this time. And I'm going to, have to figure out exactly where to place them on the inside to get the most amount of firepower in there without going too crazy. But I'm thinking that what I might do, we'll see how it works, but I may run this model at 12 volts and get a little bit extra intensity out of those LED strips. If we have to. We might not have to, but we'll just see. We have that option. Okay. Let me have a look once more here. We are good, you guys. It is completely light blocked. Okay, so my plan now is I'm going to go off camera for a second. I'm going to mix up my my white, my hull color, and we'll come back and show you that. You're not missing anything. I'm using basic white, and then I'm just going to put a couple of drops of black into that to take it from being a pure bone white, and that should be our hull color. That'll look good with the all the accents that we're going to do on a little bit later. Okay, be right back with that. Back with you again, everybody. I've chosen my paint color here. I actually had this Folk Art Wicker White, which is a slightly off white. It's not a pure white, it's almost a white that's got a little bit of black mixed with it, so that's really great. I think it'll look nice for the hull color. This way I don't have to worry about making a custom mix where if I run out of paint I got to remix it or whatever. I could just keep using it right out of this bottle. So we're ready to go. I've got it loaded into my gun, all set. We're going to just dust down a couple light coats of this onto the black, enough to get a nice uniform covering, and we'll go from there. Let me get my cords untangled here. Do a little quick test spray. Okay, looking good. Drying here. And there we go, you guys. I'm going to let this dry for a good little bit, maybe about an hour to get it completely dry, and then we'll come back over on the bench and we'll scrape off a couple of the windows and see how we're looking here. Pretty excited, guys. We'll see if this works. Be right back. We are back with you again, everybody. While my saucer top was drying here for a little bit, I started thinking about the next plan of attack and the order that I want to do things here. The first thing that I worked on was I started picking out some scraping utensils here to see what would kind of fit in most of these small little window groups here. For the most part, it looks like a standard toothpick is going to work to get into all these, kind of medium size and large ones. Some of the really, really tiny ones that I'm seeing around the edges and stuff here, I think we're going to use this stick pin, just a basic sharp stick pin. But I want to try to use the toothpick whenever I can because it's kind of dull and we won't be gouging into the plastic, wherever. If we gouge into the plastic, we're going to have our, problem getting the paint out of there. We want to be nice and smooth and just kind of try to keep the edges nice and smooth too. So I'm going to do this little group of windows right here to begin with, I think. We'll use this toothpick, and then once we get the windows all done on this entire thing, the next step that we want to do is I want to go ahead and seal this top with the Duplicolor matte wheel clear finish that I use. The reason for that is that we're going to be coming back and using our black wash to kind of, highlight these little window groups and make them look a little darker when the lights are not on. You can see that right now, if it looked just like this, there's hardly any definition. There's a little bit of shadowing there, but not enough, so we can add just a little bit by doing a little bit of wash there. And then by sealing this, the black paint won't stain on here, so hopefully what we'll get is we'll dab a little bit of black in these, kind of let it dry a couple of seconds, wipe it away, and we'll just have what we have left is in the recess areas where the windows are, our wash will remain. That's what I'm looking to try to do here. And yet be thin enough where light can still come through it. I'm going to mix up a fairly thin wash mix. When we get to that point, I'll show you how I mix up the wash. And so we're going to go from there. Once that's all done, I'll go back and reseal the whole thing again when we're getting ready to put down the decals and everything. So what I've also got is I've got my magnifying glasses on here. I want to get up nice and close to this. I don't want to try to, ham it, do it from too far away. So it's going to be really tedious, even though we're not drilling these out. It's still going to take quite a bit of time. So I'm going to start with this little one right here on the left and start working my way over and just see how it goes. Working very well so far from what I can see, you guys. This the nice thing about this craft paint is that it dries fairly hard, and so when you're scraping away here, you're not having the usual problem of having a soft edge that looks like little jagged, kind of flaps around the edges. It's coming off there nice and clean, which is exactly what I was hoping for. I'm not having to scrape too hard, just gently pushing it down on there and it's coming right off. I'm going to use a little bit of air and blow this, blow the little excess pieces out of there so I can kind of see how it's looking. Yeah, I can see that there's a little bit of residue in some of the corners, so now I'm going to use this finer pin and get in here and work some of that out of there if I can. It's working really good, you guys. I'm pretty pleased. Let's go back and continue on. Back with the last part of the video, you guys. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I continued on using the toothpick and the little stick pin here. Used the stick pin on the really small windows. I was able to go up here and get the really microscopic small little window slits on the sides here and around the top of the bridge and all that. And I'm super happy with this, you guys. It's going to work out really good. And I also don't think we're going to need to do any kind of a wash on this. You can see the definition I was looking for of the windows that have been scraped. They definitely look darker than the rest of it, so I'm not going to worry about it. I went ahead and sealed this up after I finished everything up with my Duplicolor Matte Clear, and so everything's locked in and everything now. This turned out fantastic, you guys, and it saved a whole bunch of time. It probably took me an hour and a half, maybe not even that long, to do this entire thing. And this and the secondary hull have the most amount of windows. There aren't too many on the bottom, and we'll work out all that as we go, but I'm going to show you the other steps when we get to them. But here's the really cool part, you guys. Let me hold this up to the light for you, and you can see the definitions coming through. If I can move the camera around, you can see I hope you guys can see the really small detailed windows besides the bigger ones, and back around the back of the deck here and everything, if I can catch any of those. And keep in mind that this is a warm white light that I'm using here, so I'm going to be using the regular bright white LEDs in this, and it'll look a lot less yellow, but it looks fantastic. And I would have never been able to get the windows to look this clean and this defined and all equal and pretty much perfect, just about, with doing it the drilling method. And I probably would have been here like 2 or 3 months doing it too, and going back and fixing a bunch of mistakes and everything. So here you go, guys. The regular white styrene kit's going to work just perfect for this. I'll continue on in the next video. We'll work on the secondary hull, and then we'll start probably from there, get that all wrapped up, get all the windows ready to go, and then we'll start working on the pylons and the warp nacelles. I've got some ideas on how to light those too. Like I said, I'm going to do an interesting effect inside the Bassards with some pulsing LEDs to get that kind of neat effect that we saw in the movie. Turns out this kit is from the First Contact, or is supposed to be the First Contact ship, so hopefully we'll have the markings that Jerry does that kind of match up with that. But once we put all the Aztec, now I'm not worried about putting the Aztec decals on this, because decals are always really transparent. If they go over top of any of the windows, it's not going to matter. They're still going to show up really good. So this is looking great. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope this little tip here works for you guys, and it'll encourage you to take this kit on. I know that's been something that's, you know, the window situation on this kit. There must be probably 300 or 400 windows on the top of the saucer here alone. And so that, you know, that's put off a lot of people from building these. So hopefully this little thing that we showed you here will encourage you to build your own. I drilled a couple little holes here for my navigation lights that I'll add. I'm going to use fiber optics and some SMDs there, figure out how to light up the impulse and all that. Probably a couple little spots where we're going to have some beacons and that, you know, the usual thing. You guys know the drill here on this channel. We'll figure all that out going down the road here, but stay tuned. Coming up real soon, next couple days. This will be an ongoing build series. Like I said, I opened up my whole summer to work on these different models, and you guys will be seeing regular video updates all summer long here. So we'll see you on the next go around, everybody. Until then, take care and happy modeling, everyone.